senator who made the conclusion that he was the right person. The press all had a field day. When he left to go to, when I promoted him to take charge of much wider responsibilities, we had calls from all the big shareholders, I say all, many big shareholders, saying it was a terrible thing to take him away because he had done such a great job.
Yeah, I said I wasn't disputing the ability of James, but you know, the fact that you didn't know about so many of these criminal activities that went on, do you not think that was made more likely because of the sort of family history? I don't just mean James here, I'm talking about people who weren't direct members of your family, but became friends. And it's admirable.
No.
You don't think that's had any effect on
so. I don't think Mr.
mismanagement, because it has been mismanaged.
I don't think Mr. Hinton misled me for a minute, but you must find out for yourself and make your own conclusion. Other people who gave the same evidence may well have been misleading you, but he certainly did not know of anything there.
Thank you very much.
I've got two more members. Damien Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I address my questions to the hearing, I just have to make a short declaration of my own, which is something I previously declared to the committee, which is just said that my wife is an employee of a company called Edelman, which has been engaged by News Corporation, and she's never worked on this account and has no access to the information relating to it, but I just wanted to share that with you before asking any questions. Mr. Rupert Murdoch, you said earlier on that we live in a transparent society. Do you think it's right that people in public life can expect total privacy in a society like that?
No.
And where do you think the limits of that lie? And I noticed in the Watergate investigation, for example, personal banking and phone records were used, belonging to one of the witnesses that were relevant to that investigation. And so to what extent do you think the use of confidential, private information, even phone records, even phone hacking, is permissible in the pursuit of a news story?
Oh, I think phone hacking is something quite different. But I do believe that investigative journalism, particularly competitive, does lead to a more transparent and open society, inconvenient though that may be to many people. And I think we are a better society because of it. And I think we are probably more an open society than even the United States.
Where do you draw the line with that, if I ask? Where are the boundaries of legitimate investigation? What's out of bounds?
Well, there was a great, we thought it would have been a terrible outcry. When I'm sorry to say this, and I don't know your circumstances or anyone else around here, but when the Daily Telegraph bought a series of stolen documents of all the expenses of MPs, it caused a huge outcry, one of which I feel has not been properly addressed. I think there is an answer to it, and we ought to look at the most open and clear society in the world, which is Singapore, where every minister gets at least $1 million a year, and the Prime Minister a lot more, and there is no temptation, and it is the cleanest society you can find anywhere.
Good luck in selling that idea.
May I help, Mr. Collins?
No, I mean that seriously. It is ridiculous that people were reduced to doing what they did.
May I help, Mr. Collins? Which is that because I think it's a very good question, and I think it's a really important question, and I understand it's going to be one of the subjects of the judicial inquiry which the Prime Minister announced last week, which as a company we immediately welcomed and we look forward to. This question of public interest, the question of what's acceptable and what isn't in terms of investigative techniques is an important one, but let me be very clear. The codes of conduct of News Corporation globally for our employees, journalists or otherwise are very clear that breaking the law is a very, very serious matter. It should be, people who are lawbreakers should be held to account. And in the matter of something like phone hacking or topically payments to police and things like that, we just don't think they should have any place in our business.
So, James Murdoch, you would be very clear that within your company, within your organisation, senior people should have been very aware that phone hacking was not only illegal but totally unacceptable.
Well, I think after the, particularly in light of the successful prosecutions and convictions of the individuals involved in 2007, it could not be, taken more seriously. And if new evidence emerges, and as it has in cases, the company acts on it very, very quickly.
To what extent do you think you have a cultural problem? And Rupert Murdoch, if I may, do you think you have a cultural problem within your organisation that people only tell you things that they think you want to hear? And that even people that have been your trusted advisors and worked with you for years simply withhold information because they want to curry favour?
No, not my trusted advisors, certainly. You should hear the conversations in my office. They're coming in all the time.
Forgive me, I'm going to ask because a lot of your trusted advisors now left the company, so a lot of your trusted advisors now
most people say I've got crazy ideas and advise against me.
So a lot of your trusted advisors have left your company, though.
We're a very big company. I'm sure there may be people who try to please me. That could be human nature, and it's up to me to see through that.
May I ask, to what extent do you think there is pressure on editors and senior managers to get scoops, to outdo each other, to win favour within the organisation that leads them to take risks and clearly, in the case of News of the World, push boundaries that broke the law?
Do you want to ask that again? I'm sorry.
Why do you think there is a pressure on editors of your newspapers which leads them to take risks and break boundaries where in the News of the World there was illegal action and wrongdoing, people broke the law in order to get scoops?
No, I think it's totally wrong. There is no excuse for breaking the law at any time. There is an excuse, if I may say so, and I think rightful for newspapers, all newspapers, when they wish to campaign for a change in the law, but never to break it.
Just two further questions, if I may.
I just say, perhaps addressing this in a minute, I just wanted to say that I was brought up by a father who was not rich but was a great journalist. And he, just before he died, bought a little small paper, specifically in his will saying he was giving me the chance to do good. And I remember what he did and what he was most proud of, and for which he was hated in this country by many people for many, many years, which was expose the scandal of Gallipoli, which I remain very, very proud of.
I think all students of history are
That
well aware
just
of this.
addresses the question of being a family business.
If
And I would love to see my sons and daughters follow their, if they're interested.
If I may, Rupert Murdoch, you said earlier on that you have had frequent meetings with prime ministers during your career. In the period after the arrest,
I wish they'd leave me alone.
of Clive Goodman, which you said you were aware. You said earlier on that you were aware of the situation when Clive Goodman was sent to prison, and you were aware of the case at that stage. In the years after that, where there were numerous reports, investigations, hearings of this committee, we've heard a lot about them today. Did any senior politicians that you're in contact with, or you were in contact with during that period of time, raise this as an issue with you, raise concerns about phone hacking?
Absolutely never. The politician I met most in those days was Mr. Brown, when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. His wife and my wife struck up quite a friendship, and our children played together on many occasions. And I'm very sorry that I'm no longer. I felt he had great values, which I shared with him, and I'm sorry that we've come apart, and I hope one day we'll be able to put it together again.
Just one final question to Rupert Murdoch, which is, you said in the interview you gave to the Wall Street Journal that you thought that your fellow executives for the News Corporation had handled this crisis very well with just a few minor mistakes. Do you stand by that statement, or do you believe the level of mistakes was far greater than that?
Well, they seem very big now. I mean, what we did was terrible, because you're talking about handling the crisis. Sorry, I'm starting to just tell you not to gesticulate. I don't believe that either he or Mr. Hinton made any great mistakes.